everyone. Welcome to the Medium Rachel Vanik show on A1 Air, Psychic Radio, and Moonstrike TV. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. Again, I always mention the weather, so I figured I should tell you about the weather here today. It's a little rainy, and it's still nice weather, though. So grateful to have the rain. Good sunflowers grow, hopefully. I wanted to remind y'all that my email address is mediumrachelvanik@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook and join me and other mediums in Whispers from Heaven group and other like-minded individuals. Oftentimes in the group, they do free readings once a month with sometimes 2 to 3 mediums offering them at a time. And then that's the group that I go live in with Amy Hoffman Healing. And we just kind of do a little bit of spirit talk and sometimes do readings as well. I wanted to touch base a little bit with what I talked about last time. I hope I didn't give the wrong impression that a tornado in your dream means you're going to have bad weather and that every time that happens that there's a tornado nearby. No. Not necessarily the case. Sometimes in those experiences I shared, tornadoes were involved, yes. But a lot of times tornadoes in your dreams can mean that there is a lot of chaos going on in your life around you and perhaps even around your family members, and you feel caught in the center of it. Other times, tornadoes in your dream, let's say you see one in your dream and it causes destruction. It could mean somebody in your immediate circle. It could even be about you, is prone to violent outbursts or just outbursts of anger. And it might be something that's currently happening, or it's a warning to you that, hey, you're going to lose your marbles and have a bit of an outburst. So maybe be prepared, maybe do a little bit of meditating. So if that situation arises where you would usually want to lash out, you can be like, okay, hold on. That's not how I'm going to respond this time. That's not how I'm going to work with that. One email I'd received had been mentioning, maybe some practice ideas. And it was more on the lines of to help with your psychic senses. So I'd like to start with everybody is psychic. Everybody has the psychic senses. You ever think of a person and then they call you moments later, or maybe even the next day? You were picking up on that energy. Some people have stronger senses than others naturally. And then some people, you can work on them and grow them. They're kind of like a muscle that's there, right? But you're not going to get big and bulky unless you work out, right? Maybe do some push-ups, get them arms built. So one practice that I like to encourage others to do, and sometimes me and my husband even do this just for fun. We're gone quite a bit from each other. So we don't always know what the other person is doing at that time or eating at that time. So we practice with smells. We'll just kind of take a moment. This is what I do. I'll have him come over on here sometime and share what he does. But I just kind of take a moment and I feel my husband, right? I feel his energy. And okay, what is he eating? Or what is he going to eat? What is he around right now? And I'll wait for a smell to come in. And then I'll ask him, were you eating this? Smelling's not my strong suit. So that's why I like to work on that one a lot. Now him, on the other hand, he'll just call me out of the blue and be like, hey, were you just around garlic mashed potatoes? Because I want some. Yeah, I was. That he's really good at that. Or he'll be like, you eating a cheeseburger right now? Or when I worked at a health facility, he'd be like, what are they cooking in the kitchen? Because hear what I'm smelling. And I'm like, well, let me go check. Sure enough, they were cooking that meal. I think it was maybe Reuben sandwiches or something. Excuse me. So that's one thing we do. Images. One practice I like to do, images, right? To work on your third eye, to work on your sight a bit, is this is what my daughter and I do. We do it as a fun game. We'll try and send each other an image. And we'll either just guess like that, right? Like I'll be thinking of a heart, and then she'll guess what I'm thinking of, and then we'll do the same back and forth. She wins like every time, right? Like kids are so in tune, you guys. So another one is we'll pick two words. Like let's say I say duck or chicken, and then the other person would guess what word that I had. So we kind of tune into each other's energy, right? And let's say I was thinking duck, and they'll say duck, or it's like blue or yellow, or car or truck. So that's a game as well, a game practice. Call it what you want; it's still fun. Or sometimes it's taking like a deck of cards with another individual in front of you, and keep it simple: black or red. Flip the card. Okay, black or red. Then you go back and forth as the other person guesses with the person who's flipping the card. And the more you do practices like that, the stronger those will get. Signs, telepathy. So one thing that my daughter and I have worked on is, because we're not always together either. She's with her dad half the time and here half the time. So one thing we worked on is how can we communicate with each other without doing like phone calls? Like let's come up with our own thing. So we sat at home and practiced this. Like, okay, I'm sending you a feeling, and so I would send her a feeling, like to be my calling card, so to speak. So when she felt like this hug around her, that was me. And then she sent me a feeling, and we worked on this and worked on this, and her feeling for me is like these warm rosy cheeks, and like just like your heart center feeling all this warm and love here, almost like she'd be grabbing me from the cheeks. And so, and believe it or not, I mean, we would forget about stuff like that too. We get caught up in life and stuff. And I was walking one day and I just felt it. Like I felt this here and here. And I'm like, is that spirit? What do you want? Like, and I realized we were going to have a conversation right now. And then I remembered it was my daughter. So then I got a hold of her, and we confirmed our feelings and stuff. So it is nice if you feel as though there's somebody in your circle that you can practice with. There's no right or wrong answers. So don't always try to get it right. Like if you're doing the cards, black, red, don't even focus on that. Just spit it out. Your first thought is going to be the correct one. Kind of like referring to, let's say you're taking a test and you have this answer you want to put, but then you start thinking about it, you read all the other answers, and you're like, well, maybe that one's better. Come to find out, you were right the first time. You ended up getting the question wrong because you didn't follow, you were right the first time. Okay, so those are a couple practice things there, and I'll share more in the future. One thing I wanted to talk about now when it comes to mediumship, because that's everybody's big question, Dave, right? Well, what about mediumship? What about mediumship? How does that work? How does that go? I wish I had all the answers. I still learn something new every day. And y'all, mediumship changes on the daily. You think one day you'll have a certain set of how spirit communicates with you, and you're doing that, and then the next day it's different. And it's usually different for the better because you're growing and learning more. So spirit comes to you differently each time, right? You're growing and learning. One thing I wanted to really share is if you can, sorry, my hair is getting in my face, is you can share, is that, let's say you have a client who is in their head, I will only believe that my loved one is here coming through this medium if they give a certain word, or they say a certain nickname, or anyway, something specific. it doesn't always mean, and let's say the medium doesn't come through. So you're like, well, they weren't connecting with my loved one because I told my loved one I wanted this and they didn't come through. Not necessarily, guys. That you very well so could have gotten a beautiful reading. How spirit works with mediums is they take from our knowledge. So that word or nickname might not have been in the medium's vocabulary. They might not even know that word exists. So spirit didn't have anything to work with there as far as to do that. To say, hey, say this word, or give this nickname. If it's not in our data bank, spirit doesn't always work with it. So I do encourage mediums, people wanting to learn about mediums. Oh my goodness. I think my dog jumped out the door and knocked over a pole. I gotta get this barn fixed. Anywho, quick example is I know a lot of flowers and what they look like. I don't know what they are. So when spirit comes to me with flowers, I can describe the flower, but I'm like, I don't know what it's called. And I'm just honest, I don't know. So I personally need to read a flower book so I can say the name, right? I know some flowers, roses and sunflowers, right? But I don't know them all. But I've seen flowers before, so that's how I'm able to get the image and know that that's a flower. Here's what it looks like. Anywho, y'all have a great day. Please send me more questions. I love communicating with you all, and just stay cold.